Alrighty then, in this video we're going to build the basic brick. So we need to start a new tab for a new class. It's just the way I think it's best to organize it, and we're going to call this tab brick. And inside the brick tab we're going to build a class called brick that implements game entity. And just in case, this game entity thing may or may not be terribly useful, but I'm hoping that I can make it useful to show you why we do it. Okay, the game entity interface requires us to have two methods, one called update and one called display, both of which are void methods, meaning they return nothing to whomever uses them. And then the game entity, or the brick class now. There's a third method I forgot about that returns rectangle called getRect, which is very important for collisions. And so right now we'll just return a new rectangle. That's the incorrect rectangle, but just right now to satisfy the method's requirement that this method pass back to whomever uses it a rectangle. Okay, so we're going to need some fields. And there's lots of ways to design these classes. This is just the way that I have designed this class. So we're going to have float x, y, b width, b height, so the brick's width and height. And then we're going to also have a variable called b strength, which will determine sort of how strong the brick is, or keep track of how strong the brick is, and it'll also be used in determining the color of the brick. So we're going to have an RGB value in addition. Now we're also going to have a Boolean to let us know, and this is not necessary, I just kind of like this system, so there are other ways we could do this, but we're going to just have a Boolean called isActive. We could just, or not open and close parentheses, sorry. We could just reference the strength, frankly, because it will be used in the same sort of way. I just like these Booleans to like turn on and off an entity in our game. Okay, so we need a constructor then to give a field's initial values and allow outside classes to build copies of our item, of our class. So we're going to say outside classes get to set the x and y position of this brick. So whomever builds one can say where they want it, basically. And at least initially, we're going to set the value of the class's x to x. We're going to set the value of the class's y to the parameter y that was passed in. We're going to set the width to a default value of 30 pixels and the b height to a default value of 20 pixels. We may very well change these things later on. Initially, the strength is going to be set to 2 at first. That's going to be our highest strength, and then it's going to go down to 1 and 0. Then we're going to set the colors relative to the strength. So the redness equals 255 minus b strength times 100. So actually, let me set this to a random value. So the redness will be set to total redness minus whatever the strength is. So if it's a strong brick, it'll be closer to black, and if it's getting weaker, it'll be closer to the red, or however we use these things. And because they're all going to be very similar, I am just going to copy and paste, and then change this to G and this to B. And then we have to set the value of our Boolean isActive, to true, because when a brick is created, the default setting is that it's going to be appearing on the screen, which is what this is going to keep track of. Should it be displayed? Should it be involved in collisions? All right, then under the update method, which allows bricks to draw themselves, let's set the color of the brick to whatever its color is at the moment. And then we're going to say we want to draw a rectangle at X, Y. We want it to be the width of B width and the height of B height. And then I'm going to say 10. And this last variable here, so this is the X, Y, width, and height. And this is like corner rounding. So it'll just allow our bricks to have like these nicer roundish corners. Oops, and that shouldn't be in the update method. That should be in the display method. I was just going too quickly there. So make sure you move that out of the update method and down into the display method. Now, instead of just returning a generic rectangle, we're going to actually return a rectangle at the location where our brick is. So we need to cast this to an int because rectangles like to be built with ints. So int b width and int b height. So this will return a rectangle that represents the position of our brick to whomever wants to make use of it, and the ball is going to make use of that method when it does its collision checking. Alright, so this is the basic brick class, and then we'll get on to actually displaying the bricks in the next video.